You're watching Indonesia Highlights. For the past 14 years, Jim Kiddy, the Director of Educating for Justice, has dedicated much of his time and energy to improving the living and working conditions of factory workers in Indonesia. In conjunction with the International Workers' Day, also known as May Day, Indonesia Highlights uncovers his journey and experience living on a minimum wage right at the heart of the fight for better welfare for laborers across the country. Here's Sari Latif with the interview.
Hi, I'm Sari Latif, and I'll be talking to Jim Kiddy, Director of Educating for Justice, which is a US-based group focused on workers' rights. And in conjunction with the International Labor Day, we'll find out about his experiences advocating for the underpaid workers in Indonesia. Hello, Jim. Welcome to Indonesia Highlights, and thank you for setting a time aside for us to chat today. And in fact, I know you've been very busy the last couple of days, and today you were actually at the International Workers' Day demonstration. So let's talk about that. What do you think about the current labor condition in Indonesia?
I think that the state of labor in Indonesia is emerging as far as the trade unions go. Today is International Workers' Day, and the unions did show a bit of force in the streets today, and we're letting their voice be heard. But in terms of really being able to get better welfare and better wages from workers, the Indonesian labor movement is still in a bit of its infancy. It needs to, I think, develop better tactics to get workers a real increase, not just an increase in the minimum wage, but to get a living wage.
So in your observation, then the labor's union functioning is not maximized in Indonesia?
Yeah, it's still growing. We have to recognize the fact that the Reformasi happened in '98. Prior to that, the unions were government-run unions, essentially. So it's a relatively new process to have true freedom of association, to try and build institutions, trade unions that can really represent the interest of workers. And I have seen in my 14 years a new generation of leaders emerge. And one of the things that excites me about the labor movement in Indonesia is that the younger leadership in the trade unions, they've grown up knowing that they have inherent rights under the law. And they're no longer going to allow their rights to be trampled on. And I think you're seeing that more with demonstrations that are happening in Indonesia. And certainly today, May Day, where you have tens of thousands of workers in the streets saying, we are human beings, we help these companies to generate mass profits, we deserve a fair wage in return for that. Right.
You mentioned you've been here 14 years advocating for, obviously, laborers that are underpaid in Indonesia. Why did you choose Indonesia to advocate for the poorly paid workers? How did that come about?
So I got involved in this issue in a very roundabout way. I was doing graduate work at St. John's University in New York City, where I was a soccer coach. And in one of my classes, I was doing a graduate degree in theology. I started writing a paper about a U.S. company that was doing a lot of work here in Indonesia, as well as Vietnam and China. And what I found was if you wanted to violate a company, find a company that violated everything that we claim to stand for as a Catholic university, this company was it.
Right.
And at the same time that I was learning about how they were treating their workers in places like Indonesia, the school started to negotiate a multi-million-dollar contract as an endorsement deal, and I'd have to wear and promote their products.
Right.
So I took a stand and I refused. I was forced to resign from my job. I became the first athlete in the world to take a stand like this. And then I got involved with activists that had been challenging these Western brands and running campaigns, raising consumer awareness about what was happening. And I made a decision that I wanted to see it firsthand. I had seen the research reports coming from activists from America and Australia that were based here in Indonesia, but I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it, I wanted to smell it, I wanted to hold it in my hands.
Right.
So I developed this idea, I want to go live with factory workers. And the activists that I was connected with at the time, the Australians and the Americans, were like, you have to go to Indonesia. It's ground zero for what's going on with these companies.
Right.
So in the summer of 2000, I came to Indonesia, and I moved to Tangerang, and I went and lived in the worker complex, Kampung, where the workers live, and for 1 month tried to survive on the basic minimum wage. At the time, it was $286,000 a month. I actually gave the company the benefit of the doubt. I found one of their factories where they were paying $300,000. So I said, okay, I'll go with the highest wage. And in that 1 month, living on the basic wage that these workers are being paid by this very wealthy Western multinational, I lost 12 kilos. And I lived, I slept on a cement floor with rats stampeding over the ceiling at night and the cockroaches crawling over you, and just really struggled to make ends meet. It's the minimum wage is a survival wage.
Right.
It doesn't allow people to have a healthy, normal life.
Right. That's quite a radical move you made, I think, to actually go to Indonesia, live and just experience what these factory workers are living on a minimum wage. We'll talk more about that, Jim, and when we come back, of course, we'll discuss some of the 10 demands labourers are making and whether the 10 demands by what they've been asking can be accomplished. If so, what would be the best method? Stay with us.